Thanks for staying with us. Welcome to the News at 5 on Channels Television. I'm Joker Rogers. Here are the news reports we're tracking for you this hour. We begin with judicial matters. The Court of Appeal Abuja has vacated the judgment that directed the Independent National Electoral Commission to deregister the African National Democratic Congress and 4 other political parties accused of failing to meet constitutional requirements. In a unanimous decision by a 3-member panel of justices, the Appellate Court held that the order which the Federal High Court issued the electoral body on June 15 amounted to a nullity. In its lead judgment led by Justice Abba Mohammed, the Appellate Court held that the High Court wrongly assumed jurisdiction and made the court on an incompetent suit that was filed by a non-juristic entity. According to the court, there was no valid suit that could have warranted the consequential order that directed INEC to derecognize the political parties. It noted that the trial court failed to properly evaluate evidence placed before it, stressing that proof that the parties won various seats in previous elections was ignored. It also held that the High Court acted on defiance of an order that directed it to stay proceedings in the case. It held that the High Court ought to have dismissed the substantive case for want of jurisdiction and merit. Consequently, the Appellate Court held that all the affected political parties remained duly registered. It allowed separate appeals filed by the political parties and awarded monetary costs against the National Forum of former legislators which had filed the case against them. Aside from the ADC, the other parties whose registration the Appellate Court restored are the Action People's Party, Action Alliance, Accord Party and the Zenith Labour Party. More court matters. Online publisher and presidential candidate of the African Alliance Congress, AAC, Omoyele Sowore, has jettisoned his plan to invite the Director General of the Department of State Services, Oluwatosin Adeolajayi, as his witness in his ongoing trial for alleged criminal defamation of President Bola Tinubu on social media. Mr. Sowore told the Federal High Court, Abuja, that the evidence for which he had earlier subpoenaed the DSS boss could be obtained from any other official of the service. At the day's proceedings, the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi, led the prosecution on behalf of the federal government for the first time. Now, the AGF had objected to the subpoena issued on the DSS boss on the ground that the document he was to give evidence upon was not authored by him, but another person who had already testified in the matter. He argued that a letter by the DSS advising Mr. Sowore to pull down the posts wherein he called President Bola Tinubu a criminal had been tendered and admitted as exhibits twice by the same court, hence no reason for it to be tendered the third time. The AGF argued that the author of the letter, Mr. Owen Davis, had on July 22 testified for Mr. Sowore in the trial and that the document is already in the custody of the court. To other stories now, 3 people are feared dead after a 2-story building sank along Bale Road in the Ajun area of Ifo local government area of Ogun State. A joint team of emergency responders from Lagos and Ogun States are set to bring down the structure as well as adjoining buildings to the recently collapsed structure. The incident occurred yesterday, triggering a rescue operation by emergency responders. The Southwest Zonal Director of the National Emergency Management Agency, Said Akiode, says rescue operatives recovered 3 bodies from the rubble while 12 other occupants were rescued.
There has been some crack in the building which they have been noticing, but as our people they failed to inform the authorities in charge to take actions, and the thing culminated to that what we witnessed yesterday. Since yesterday, we have been carrying out search and rescue operations. Immediately the agency NEMA was informed, we activated all response agencies, and since yesterday we have been on ground. Currently, we are now doing out evacuations. The bodies recovered have been deposited. 3 bodies were recovered, while 12 are rescued alive, are in safe custody. So what is going currently now is evacuation of the debris, and also the Ogun State material testing are currently carrying out integrity tests to really ascertain the viability of other buildings that may likely be affected. But the situation is very peaceful now, and while all research stakeholders, SEMA, NEMA, the local government, the state government have taken full responsibility of the response operations. The situation is calm and there is no cause for alarm. The agency is in full control in collaboration with the state SEMA, the support of La SEMA, where the chairman of the local government is equally here with us. So we can see all hands are on deck to ensure that we have a smooth operation. So what we are doing now is to try to bring the whole building to ground zero for easily for us to cite if there could be any other thing again.
With the help of the state government, we were able to mobilize equipment here to see how to save the people in it, and we were able to rescue about 12 people, including 2 children, about 41 days old babies too, and other adults. And but unfortunately, we lost 3 people. A mother, a daughter, and an elderly man. So we were here till about 11 p.m. yesterday, and we are here today, this morning, to clear the debris, to search further if we still have anybody that we can be fortunate to save.
Elsewhere, Governor Ubasani has nominated the executive chairman of the Kaduna State Internal Revenue Service, Jerry Adams, as his running mate for the 2027 Kaduna State governorship election. The nomination marks the first time in 7 years that the ruling All Progressives Congress will field a Christian deputy governorship candidate in Kaduna following its Muslim tickets in the 2019 and 2023 elections. Governor Sani says the decision reflects his administration's commitment to inclusion, fairness, justice, and equitable representation while rewarding competence, integrity, and dedicated public service. He describes Mr. Adams as an accomplished public servant whose leadership at Kadiris has strengthened the state's internally generated revenue through key tax and financial management reforms. Mr. Adams' nomination is expected to generate significant political interest as preparations for the 2027 governorship election gathers momentum. The federal government has signed a memorandum of understanding with the River State on tourism, arts, culture, and the creative economy. The MOU is aimed at strengthening collaboration with subnational governments to promote the development of Nigeria's tourism, arts, culture, and creative industries. The agreement was signed by the Minister of Arts, Culture, Tourism, and the Creative Economy, Hannatu Musawa, on behalf of the federal government, while the Permanent Secretary of the River State Ministry of Culture and Tourism, Tomoni Ishmael, signed on behalf of the River State government.
What you have already done in the area of art, culture, tourism, and the creative economy has been very vast. And Mr. President wanted us not to work in silos, but to work together with the different subnationals to see how we, as the federal government, can support all the efforts that you're doing in the states. We have already been to a few states, but I said the vision that we have to share partnership and collaboration with the states is not complete if the federal government does not sign with River State. Of course, it's one of the low-hanging fruits. So I'm very glad today that we signed this MOU. What we have is the MOU on the Renewed Hope Cultural Project. So it is a project that expands across the art, culture, tourism, and the creative industry. And it's really to capture what you have already done in the state, and it's to see what we can do at the federal level to continue to support you, to expand that so that we can use it as a tourism hub, as a cultural hub, as a creative hub, and of course as an art space as well.
Well, Governor Simnalayi Fubara says the agreement aligns with his administration's vision of expanding the state's economy beyond traditional infrastructure development through strategic investments in tourism and the hospitality industry.
You're welcome. As
River State has already started a lot of work in this aspect of the economy. Part of this project that the Honorable Minister has, what I say, brought for us to sign into agreement today is what we had in mind when we had this project in Andoni, the Oyorokoto Road. Oyorokoto, if you are aware, will have one of the best beach in this country. It is the Oyorokoto beach. And today, I can tell you over the internet, I've been seeing pictures of elephants and all sorts of wildlife have been showcased. We have made a promise that we're going to support and we're going to work towards the success of Mr. President.
The Minister of State for Industry, Senator John Eno, has highlighted the ministry's efforts in propagating the Nigeria First policy mandate given by President Bola Tinubu, a policy focused on promoting made in Nigeria goods. The minister notes that promotion of these made in Nigeria products in turn increases the manufacturing and employment growth in the country. He encourages Nigerians to trust and patronize such brands. He was a guest on our breakfast program, The Morning Brief.
The Nigerian First policy is being operationalized. It's not just, something that is a pronouncement or something that is on paper. One of the, mandates that I have as Minister of State in charge of industry is the promotion of made in Nigeria goods and services. That is so key, that is so important. Just a change of attitude, in terms of having to buy made in Nigeria goods and having to, for example, patronize services that are Nigerian services and all of that. How much it will contribute to manufacturing growth, how much it will contribute to jobs availability and all of that. Trying to make it mandatory, in terms of procurement of, military and paramilitary uniforms, school uniforms, NYC and all of that. All of that is going on as I speak with you, and it's going to be operationalized very soon. The only way that this policy can achieve its objective and its impact is to make sure that made in Nigerian goods, having to patronize them goes beyond a matter of patriotism to a matter in which people actually also believe in the quality of those goods.
The Lagos State government has launched the Lagos State Greenhouse Gas Registry as part of efforts to deepen environmental sustainability journey of the state. The General Manager of the Lagos State Environmental Protection Agency, Babatunde Ajayi, said that registry marks a defining moment in the Lagos climate action journey and reflects the state government's commitment to building a resilient, climate-smart and environmentally sustainable economy.
Lagos State is often exposed to flooding, environmental challenges, and air pollution that affect citizens' well-being. A situation that has prompted the government to establish a comprehensive greenhouse gas registry aimed at strengthening climate governance, improving emissions accountability, and accelerating the state's transition to a low-carbon economy. The initiative attracts top government officials and policymakers to be part of the landmark ceremony, which will help digitize carbon transparency and ensure institutional environmental compliance.
All of the commercial activity comes with a lot of carbon emissions, and these emissions have to be documented. The direction the world is going, particularly in the climate change world, is that you must tie your emissions to health.
Partners of the Greenhouse Gas Registry are confident that the initiative will help gather credible data and increase economic growth for Lagos State.
This is opening a new set of economy for Lagos State and for Nigeria.
And the theme of today's event reflects the urgent need to leverage innovation, technology, and reliable data to support informed decision-making and effective climate action.
The initiative positions Lagos State as the first subnational in Nigeria to establish a gas registry. It equally gives the state a huge opportunity to help Nigeria contribute to its quota to reducing the effects of climate change.
It has been established that climate change is strongly related to our earth status. Once Lagos State, once they are able to go forward and get this right, a number of states will come on board to work with them and to learn from them so Nigeria can be better.
Delivering the keynote address, the State Commissioner for Health, Professor Akin Abayomi, says Lagos is vulnerable to climate change and getting the greenhouse gas registry right is top priority.
If we get this registry right, it means that funding will flow from the emission part of the economy to trigger a new part of the economy, and that will be a part of the economy that will absorb the excess carbon emission that we are producing in Lagos.
The Greenhouse Gas Registry is expected to provide a digital platform for measuring, reporting, and verifying emissions, support climate policy implementation, improve air quality management, and attract green investments.
When we come back on the news at 5 on Business News, Afreximbank raises its largest ever bond issuance. Details soon. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the news at 5. The Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria says it's stepping up efforts to recover bad loans while advancing plans to divest some of the assets under its management. The corporation says recent legal and operational developments are expected to strengthen its recovery drive and support its ongoing asset disposal program. Our business correspondent, Willie Bong, reports.
A Supreme Court ruling has handed the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria, AMCON, a major boost in its debt recovery drive. At a media briefing in Lagos, AMCON outlines the implications of the ruling, which includes exemption from stamp duty payment and the authority to dispose of pledged collateral regardless of the size of a debtor's outstanding obligation.
So it is no longer any news when AMCON goes ahead to sell any collateral that is attached to an EBA. The Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court has already affirmed that AMCON has the right to sell any collateral that AMCON bought along with an EBA.
While highlighting the implications of the ruling, the corporation also shares its recovery performance in the first half of the year.
Since we came in 2024, our collection, our recovery has been going up, not coming down. By June this year alone, we have done 64% more than we did June last year. 64% more. By June last year, 2025, AMCON had done a recovery of 107 billion. But by June this year, AMCON had done 165 billion. Our cost to recovery ratio remained impressive at 2.3%.
The report includes efforts to divest its stake in Nigerian telecommunications and digital infrastructure company Entel, the successor to the defunct state-owned Nigerian Telecommunications Limited (NITEL), following the successful sale of the Ibadan Electricity Distribution Company.
Most of you know the moribund Entel, NITEL. I can tell you that hopefully by the end of this year, NITEL will be back on its feet.
After sharing the developments and work so far, journalists are given the floor for questions, to which the managing director, Mr. Gbenga Alade, responds to.
We are aware that AMCON was not set up to operate in perpetuity. Senate have said so much about 2030 as the sunset date for AMCON. But we have a strategy that will help us to, to meet the sunset date, if need be. However, we must know that our Act provides that it is our board and CBN that will determine the final sunset date of AMCON.
Looking ahead, the corporation says it has revised its commission structure for debt recovery agents to improve recoveries and that it will intensify engagement with solicitors and receiver managers to deepen understanding and enforcement of the AMCON Act.
Let's take a look at other business stories today. The African Export-Import Bank, Afreximbank, has successfully raised $1.5 billion through its largest ever bond issuance, strengthening its capacity to finance trade and development across Africa. The 5-year senior unsecured bond attracted strong global investor demand, with orders significantly exceeding the amount offered, reflecting confidence in the bank's credit profile and Africa's long-term growth prospects. The proceeds will support Afreximbank's trade finance operations, infrastructure development and private sector financing across the continent. Afreximbank says the successful issuance broadens its funding base, enhances access to international capital markets and reinforces its role in supporting intra-African trade and industrialization. The bank adds that the transaction will provide additional liquidity for strategic projects aimed at boosting economic integration and sustainable development. The Chief Executive Officer of the Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise, Dr. Muda Yusuf, says Nigeria is unlikely to feel the full impact of the United States' new 12.5% tariff on selected imports. Speaking on Business Morning today, Dr. Yusuf says most of Nigeria's exports to the U.S. are crude oil, liquefied natural gas, and other petroleum products that are exempt from the tariff.
You look at the portfolio of our exports, we are almost 90% crude oil and gas. Not just limited to the United States, but generally. So in order to reduce our vulnerability to global shocks, it makes a lot of sense for us to focus a lot more on export diversification. And this will have to be driven by, building capacity across all sectors of the economy, building capacity in the area of value addition, across all sectors, and also building our capacity in services export. It's not something that is so critical, if I may put it that way, given the fact that almost 80% or 85% of what we export to the United States are exempted, from this tariff, because President Trump too is very sensitive to the impact of his trade policy on energy prices, on things like fertilizer, gas, and so on. So anything that has to do with all those sectors, he doesn't touch it, even as desperate as he is on these tariff issues. So our exposure is very minimal. But of course, the interest of some small exporters that may be affected, of course, we can have some discussion around it. But what is more important is for us to address the competitiveness issues around our exports.
The Bank of England is widely expected to leave interest rates unchanged at its July 30 policy meeting as policymakers continue to balance stubborn inflation against slowing economic growth. Speaking on Channels Television's Business Morning, the Chief Executive Officer of Financial Derivatives Company, Mr. Bismarck Rouhani, says the UK Central Bank is likely to maintain its current monetary policy stance despite recent moderation in inflation.
The Federal Reserve Bank is unlikely to make any move in any direction between now and the election, if not to be considered as trying to politically motivated decision. So we'll leave the Federal Reserve Bank aside and know that what we'll be looking at is the European Central Bank, the Bank of England. If all of these central banks now decide to keep rates stable, it means that your foreign portfolio investors coming to Nigeria will be incentive to enjoy the carry trade will be reduced. Interest rates have stayed in advanced market. You've also factor in the risk of Nigeria that, okay, you have elections coming, no matter what the outcome, institutional investors and hedge funds and foreign portfolio investors are allergic to elections and allergic to risk. So for now, we'll expect that amount of flows to reduce. And to make up for whatever commitments we have, we might have to start looking at the Eurobond market for additional funding just in case. But the truth is that the buffers Nigeria has built so far, when you look at the gross reserves, net reserves, and the way the currency has been managed, gives us some comfort that we're likely to see any dramatic or precipitous moves against our currency and against our exports.
And that's the news at 5. Thank you for watching. I'm Joke Rogers.